Rangino Lagalmandaya. Dr. Hamid, thank you very much for this interview with Kurdistan24. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
As you know, now there's a war or a conflict in Middle East exactly between Hamas and Israel, and everybody knows, and they speak about it, that Iran is supporting Hamas. Do you think that this conflict would expand in Middle East, especially? Do you expect any kind of conflict between America and Iran? Because the Iraqi militia bombarding the American bases, which they have the bases in Iraq and Syria. So do you think that there would be a kind of conflict between America and Iran?
I mean, in such situation, when we have a war at this extent in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, and also we have Hezbollah also targeting the positions of Israel, the Houthis from Yemen, and the militias in Iraq and Syria, actively targeting the United States. Of course, the risk of conflict is increasing. But when it comes to Iran, interestingly, what we have witnessed so far is that Iran is trying not to get involved, not to get dragged into the conflict directly. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I believe that they also don't want a kind of a full-scale war between Hezbollah and Israel. What they do through, of course, other groups like militias, etc., they want to send a message to the United States and to other actors that we are ready for a scenario of escalation, but at the same time they don't want to escalate because interestingly, some people in Iran actually argued that, and this is not about only like the so-called moderates, the conservative camp. For example, the former Speaker of the Parliament said a few days ago that a conflict between Iran and the United States might be exactly what the Israelis want, in order to sort of divert the attention from Gaza to other areas. But the main reason, of course, is that, even if Hezbollah gets dragged into the war, because it's the main Iranian ally in the region, and the consequences would be huge for the infrastructure that Iran and Hezbollah have built in Lebanon. The consequences would be huge for Hezbollah's base, and if Iran itself gets dragged in, then the whole country would be target for, of course, the U.S. strikes and Israeli strikes. So they are keeping their support for
until when?
At the political level.
Until when? Keeping their positions.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. The extent to which this is sustainable is kind of questionable. There have been some red lines in the beginning, for example, not directly drawn by Iran, but basically saying like if there's going to be a major Israeli operation, a ground operation in the against Hamas in Gaza, and if Hamas is going to get destroyed, then there might be some escalation. Again, Iran itself has been cautious not to draw any red line that would involve its own kind of a confrontation. But what they say is that these resistance groups would get intervened. But what we are witnessing right now is that the ground operation is happening actually, and there has been a phased escalation, of course, by Hezbollah and by the Houthis, but we are not seeing any sign of kind of war declaration, for example, by Hezbollah. And this shows, of course, the restraints of the so-called axis of resistance. And to my understanding, it's also because of the U.S. deterrence, because the U.S. deterrence in the region is working. And this is something maybe Iran and its allies wouldn't expect, because what the United States did was that they sort of came full force in support of Israel. They sent aircraft carriers to the region. They sent a few thousand troops to the region. And so the messaging, I would say, is going on both sides.
Okay. Dr. Hamid, as we know, Iran has a big influence on Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon. After this war between Hamas and Israel, are we going to see this influence of Iran would be end in the Middle East?
I don't think so, because if you see the network of Iran-backed groups throughout the region, I would say Hamas has the loosest, basically, ties to Iran, because at top of that we have Hezbollah, which is affiliated with Iran ideologically, religiously, politically, and is supported comprehensively by Iran. Then we have the Shia groups in Iraq,
Yes.
and political groups, and also the militia supported by Iran. Then we have the Houthis, and Hamas actually, there was a period between 2011 when Hamas supported the opposition to the Assad regime, and until around 2018, that the relationship between the two sides, between Iran and Hamas, was not so good.
Okay.
So of course Hamas is important, and very important in the sense that it provides Iran with a battlefield right within the Palestinian territories against Israel. But losing that would not necessarily mean losing Iran's regional influence, because actually, over the past decade, Iran has expanded its network of allies.
Mm-hmm.
The Houthis were not part of that until 2015. The Hashd al-Sha'bi was not the Hashd al-Sha'bi that we know today, like before 2014. So, in that sense, I think it's far from that, from
Right.
Iran's regional influence waning.
Dr. Hamid, thank you very much for this quick
you,
interview
it
with
was my pleasure.
Kurdistan24. We appreciate that.